Fuck Bubba the Love Sponge, and welcome to another edition of Cornette's Commentary right here on Who's Slamming Who. This is Tommy Fierro. I'm
setting the tone for the day.
Setting the tone for the day. We're here to talk about what everyone wants to hear about.
Well, no, wait a minute. First of all, we're here to talk about the fact that there's 4 inches of snow still here in Louisville, Kentucky. It's bitterly cold. The country's been in a deep freeze, but all weekend, my ears have been burning, Tommy.
Yeah.
But, you know, I wish, I have so much fun talking to you here on the program. I wish there was some way we could figure out to get some publicity for our humble little effort. You know, this little podcast that we do in front of 100,000 of our closest friends every week. At least last week that was the number. I just wish there was some way that we could get the word out that we speak the truth about professional wrestling on Cornette's Commentary on Who's Slamming Who, but I'm stumped so far. I wish there was some angel that could fly down from heaven and expose us for how right we are and how ignorant they are about professional wrestling. Oh, wait!
You know, as I say, it would be really cool if we can find a way to promote this show so big that someone like, just say the biggest name in professional wrestling ever, like Hulk Hogan, would hear about the show and listen to it. That would be really cool.
Well, wait a minute. Actually, you said the biggest name ever in professional wrestling, but Austin and Rock are unfortunately busy. However, number 3 could chime in. But, you know, I'm sure people have heard the comments, and Tommy, I don't want you to start off being a hater. I've heard that word so much lately, the hater. But anyway, I don't want you to start off on a tangent here, because after all, it is a humble little podcast that we do where we speak the truth. And last week, Bubba the Love Sponge, the god of the airwaves on satellite radio, apparently, and I guess he got a show in Tampa. I did not know. I knew, obviously, who Bubba the Love Sponge was because he's quoted in the Wrestling Observer because he's the simpering, sycophant, sidekick stooge of Hulk Hogan, so whenever Hulk wants to lie, he gets on the radio, and Bubba helps him do it. But I wasn't aware that he was involved in professional wrestling until he showed up on TNA Impact last Monday night and delivered the single worst performance in the history of televised wrestling. That's not up for debate. That's pretty well been the consensus. Have I missed something?
Well, he's a pretty good detective because he knew who laid out all those guys he said on the air last week.
Oh, yeah, well, he was squatting over him taking a shit on beer money that he thought actually I was entertaining when I said that. But see, Bubba, he's got to be a Republican, because what he's done is he's taken a Republican tactic. When he can't argue with the logic or the truth of the statement, then he ambushes the messenger. And in this case, he was trying to hurt my feelings. And actually, Tommy, I know he hurt your feelings, talking about, which actually he went on for, 3 or 4 minutes talking about the unprofessionalism of our little podcast. The audio quality isn't that good. It's not satellite radio. And, you know, that's our humble little effort. We never meant to encroach on his territory.
I don't know if I said this was WCBS-FM or anything.
You know, which makes it all the more troubling when the fucking guy then encroaches in our territory and delivers the single worst performance in the history of televised wrestling. Now, I got to wonder, since he said that, another thing he said, well, you know, Cornette's been fired from, you know, WWE, which I have, and fired from TNA, which I have, and kind of proud of that one. But now he doesn't know I have a gig. Actually, he knows I have a gig. He just didn't want to give Ring of Honor any publicity. Since he was spreading it out, I don't know why he didn't. But anyway, he said you got to have a forum, you know, like to broadcast your views. And now that's the problem with the Internet. Everybody has a forum, but also you still have to have a professional show and be talented as a television performer or radio performer, which once again brings up the subject of why did he give the worst performance in the history of televised wrestling? He needs to stay with satellite radio and let us, the big boys, when he bumped Jeremy Borash out of the way, I'll show you how to handle this, kid, let us take care of the professional wrestling performances, first and foremost. And secondly, he seemed to go on a tangent about how that, obviously I take this way too seriously. You know, Hogan was on the way to 15 minutes. He played the clip where I explained that Hogan was on the way to the Impact Zone for 15 minutes by driving around the block, and then came and got in the ring and said he'd been in the back all day talking to the boys. But unlike everybody else, he didn't get the meaning behind this. He thought I was taking it too seriously, that Hogan was drawing out his entrance, instead of Hulk Hogan exposing himself, which was edited off the Thursday night replay, as a blithering idiot for not even being able to keep his own story straight. And played this. So at any rate, I checked, Bubba the Love Sponge, when we say that, I'm sure his mother did not, christen him. His Christian name is not Bubba the Love Sponge, so I looked up on the Google thing, and his name is Todd Clem. So, maybe we can just call him my buddy Todd or cousin Clem. He talked about whether I've been fired or not. Actually, I got the gig now that I've been wanting for a while, so thank you. But he got fired from Clear Channel Radio for getting fined $750,000 by the FCC for putting shitty product out over the airwaves. And they fired him for it, and then they picked him up on Sirius or wherever, and that's fine. I'm in love with the idea that he can be a shock jock. But stay the fuck out of wrestling, little boy, because you bother me. It brings to mind, did he have a stinky performance where he was so obviously phony and contrived and fake and insincere and acting above it all? Did he do that on purpose to his friend Hulk Hogan's new wrestling project just to show that he was above all of it and he knew what was going on and he was more important than everybody else? Or did he just really have that bad a performance? I'm wondering. What are your thoughts, Tommy? What do you think about it?
You know what? I actually have a question for you, Jimmy.
Well, what would that be?
What's the difference between a rooster and Bubba the Love Sponge?
I don't know, Tommy. What is the difference between a rooster and Bubba the Love Sponge?
A rooster says cock-a-doodle-doo, and Bubba says Hogan's cockle-doo.
Tommy, you should be on satellite radio.
Hey, man, I got one more entertaining one.
Because apparently everybody else can. Go ahead.
Since Bubba's so entertaining and loves to entertain, I figure we'd entertain a little bit, too. What does John Cena and Bubba the Love Sponge's penis have in common?
I don't know, Tommy. What does John Cena's penis and Bubba the Love Sponge have in common?
It's Bubba's penis and John
Cena's. And Bubba's
penis.
penis. Well, I didn't realize Bubba had a penis. Sorry, I screwed up your joke. What does John Cena's penis and Bubba the Love Sponge's penis have in common?
They both say you can't see me.
Oh. I think you should have stuck with the first one. Anyway, now
the first one was funny.
Just with Hulk Hogan also. Now, and because then, of course, Bubba, little stooge that he is, goes running to Big Brother Hulk and plays Jim Cornette's comments, just my own meager opinions, on our little amateur podcast that we do in front of 100,000 of our closest friends every week.
With my microphone.
Yeah, exactly. Plays that for the biggest wrestling star in the history of the universe, number 3, the immortal Hulk Hogan, who puts me over, says I've got a great mind for the business and blah, blah, blah. And I was even thinking of doing something with Jim and giving him a job here at TNA where he could keep warm and fuzzy. But now after I hear these comments, I don't need that negativity. Let me explain something to you. I've been in that locker room, and it's only worse now. You're going to be dealing with plenty of negativity from all the young guys that are getting knots on their head from hitting that glass ceiling. Secondly, I appreciate Hulk's comments and putting me over and et cetera, because he's, doing the old wrestling thing either. Yeah, I would have given him a job so I'll feel bad. That horse left the barn a while back, cowboy. I was there for 3 miserable years watching Vince Russo systematically destruct and destroy the foundation of the company, and I don't need to see the big equipment come in to finish the job off. I've got the gig I want, and I appreciate that very much. But that if Hulk really is broke up, Tommy, about not being able to work with Jim Cornette because I'm negative, then I would suggest that he look across the table at that pop-eyed buggy-whipped Vince Russo, buggy-whipped armed Vince Russo, clearly with a deer caught in the headlights of what to do next to save his job, and say, why'd you run Cornette off with your goofy booking, you dumb shit, and slap him around a little bit. Once again, I don't think that people realize that, yes, they got a short-term pop, which, by the way, the ratings, Tommy, the ratings, I predicted the highest quarter hour to be a 1.8. I predicted the highest show hour average would be a 1.6 and overall would be a 1.5. They did a 1.89, a 1.66, and a 1.45, so I was less than a tenth of a point off of all 3 of them. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Right on the money.
And all those people witnessed a bunch of old gray-haired people yelling at each other about shit that took place 15 years ago. And I challenged people to come up with something good about TNA's effort, and I must admit people did. People said AJ Styles and Kurt Angle had a tremendous match, which they did with 3 commercial breaks.